Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. All right, we've got the aftermath of Nick Saban's retirement, and a lot of players are heading out of Alabama. It's starting to get out of hand.
Remain calm. All is well.
And there's some teams really raiding Alabama, especially Florida State. They are going crazy trying to get Bama players, and they're having a lot of success. So let's take a look at the transfer portal and what's going on. And several big players have already left. And we'll start out with Isaiah Bond. He's a wide receiver. And you'll notice all these transfer portal guys, I've been taking notes on them. And as I've written them all down, let me just give you an idea of where these guys were in high school as far as their recruiting ranking. And if you know anything about recruiting, anything over a 90 is a really good 4-star. You have to hit basically a 98 to be a 5-star. Well, these guys are almost 5-stars, and there's a bunch of them leaving Bama. And it's primarily because Nick Saban, plus, you know, it's the portal too. They want to go out there and test the waters. But listen to these recruiting numbers. Isaiah Bond, 95.57. Sean Murphy, 95.4. Roy Dale Williams, 94.5. Terrence Ferguson, 95. Malik Benson, 95. Monkel Goodwin, 95. All down, I mean, it's all 94, 95, 95. These are difference makers. These are really the building blocks of a championship team. And they're heading out. And like I said, we'll go down the list here very quickly. But I wanted to read those numbers to you just so you get an idea of how significant this exodus is. Now, they don't know where Sean Murphy's headed yet, but he is in the portal, a big-time linebacker. And he's just a redshirt freshman. Here's Roy Dale Williams. He's heading to Florida State. He was a 94.5 in high school. And he's got, what, a $242,000 NIL value, and he's heading to Florida State. Tennessee picked up a tight end. He was a 3-star, though. I think he's more of a blocking tight end, and we did need some depth there. And like I say, Bond is heading to Texas. Here's another FSU transfer. Terrence Ferguson, offensive lineman, was originally a 95. Kentucky picked up a good player here. A cornerback, Christian Story. Isaiah Hastings, defensive lineman's heading to Mizzou. Ole Miss, of course, had to pick up a player out of there. They're not going to miss an opportunity. Kendrick Blackshear is a linebacker. Here's yet another Florida State pickup. Malik Benson, wide receiver. He was almost a 5-star in high school. South Carolina picked up a real nice defensive lineman, Monkel Goodwin, almost a 5-star back in high school. And here's a quarterback, Eli Holstein, headed to Pittsburgh. He'll probably take over up there. He was almost a 5-star as well in high school. And here's yet another, Florida State again, Earl Little, cornerback. He had a rating of 94.78. And then Ohio State picked up Seth McLaughlin. He's the guy that had kind of the yips on hiking the ball. He kept screwing up hiking the ball. They might move him to guard, though, because if you can play center, you can definitely play guard. Center's a tough position to play. It's one of the most difficult offensive line positions. You got a lot on your plate. So anyway, this is not looking good for Alabama. And Florida State is having a heyday. They are having fun raiding Alabama's cupboard, to say the least.
This is going to be a great year.
And Florida State has kind of made a living out of the transfer portal. And really, you know, they went undefeated last year, and it was basically with transfer portal players. So it looks like they're going down that road again. Ole Miss has done the same thing. They've really lived in the portal. They're not big-time recruiters. Lane Kiffin doesn't like all that work, having to go and run down those players.
I was unavoidably detained.
So he likes to just go to the portal and pick them out that way. And that's worked out good for him. It's a short-term answer, but it seems to be working. And the thing is, as long as the cupboard's out there and you can pick and choose, you know, you can kind of go that route. Now, the big question on Kalen DeBoer is, can he recruit? There's no question he's a terrific coach. He's won everywhere he's been. He took Washington to the national championship. But his recruiting rankings have stunk. So he's not a very good recruiter based on his history that we can see. Doesn't mean he won't be a good recruiter at Alabama, but I don't know that he likes it. The other question is the defense wasn't very good out there, and Alabama's all about defense. And if you want to know why a lot of these players are leaving, they signed with Nick Saban, the GOAT. They didn't necessarily sign with Alabama, and I know the Alabama fans out there are going to get mad at me.
Here's my fist for the time. God, go get him. God, go take him down.
You know, it's all about Alabama. To you, it is. To these 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, they signed with Nick Saban when he'd walked in there with 7 rings all over his fingers. You know, the Aflac guy.
Aflac.
And before you say I'm wrong, Here we go. Alabama's top wide receiver, Isaiah Bond, transfers to Texas 100% because Nick Saban retired. It says Pete Thamel reported the former Alabama wide receiver transferred to Texas on Sunday. He said it was a business decision and 100% driven by former Crimson Tide head coach decision to retire, Nick Saban. Said, just like the business world, you make the best decision for your company, Bond said. My company right now is my draft stock. I feel like I'm putting myself in position to increase that and have better draft stock. And he's excited about playing with Quinn Ewers. He said he's a great big-time pocket passer quarterback, top pick in the draft. I'm also going to be a top pick. It's going to be a good duo. So there's you a prime example of what I'm talking about. Nick Saban is what made Alabama great. Now, Alabama was a good program, but they were struggling before Nick Saban showed up. If you'll remember, they were in the doldrums for over a decade. And then Nick showed up and just, it's been a nightmare ever since.
It's like a nightmare, isn't it? Yeah, and it just keeps getting worse and worse, doesn't it?
That's why so many teams are celebrating him leaving and retiring. Now, I've given him a ton of respect, so don't be wearing me out, Alabama fans. No, I respect what he's done, but I can tell you, you brought in an offensive-minded coach. A lot of the defensive players and recruits are going to say, this guy's more of an offensive guy. I'm going to go somewhere where, I'm more in the pecking order, and defense is important. Now we're going to look at some players that may very well leave Alabama that would have a very detrimental effect if they did. Alabama is working hard to keep these guys, and really that's what Kalen DeBoer needs to focus on, is retaining the players that he's got, because he's got probably the best roster in the country or close to it. If he can just hold on to them, he should be fine, but it's not going to be easy because they got 30 days to enter the portal if they haven't already. And this is on Sportskeeda. These are the top 5 players that if they transfer out, it'll really hurt Alabama. And, of course, number 1 is Caleb Downs. That guy's unbelievable. He had 107 total tackles, 2 interceptions, 1 forced fumble, a recovery, SEC Freshman Player of the Year. He's a defensive back, plays safety, and Georgia's trying to get him. I'm telling you, if I'm Tennessee with our secondary, I'm breaking the bank to get this kid. He's the best player in the country, especially in the defensive backfield. He could almost fix our defensive backfield. That one, especially at safety, because that's the guy that can clean up a lot of messes and protect you in the backfield. He would be a huge pickup for the Vols. I would be going after him hard, and I would not let Georgia outbid me, not for this guy. He's very special. And the reason Caleb Downs may very well head to Georgia is that Georgia hired defensive backs coach Travarius Robinson as a new co-defensive coordinator, and Caleb Downs obviously has a good relationship with him. He was also one of the main recruiters who brought in Downs as the number 1 safety in Alabama's class of 2023, which was an epic class. Isaiah Bond, they've already lost to Texas, so that guy's gone. Tim Keenan III, defensive lineman. He's a guy to really keep an eye on. Kobe Prentice, he's a wide receiver. He's got big-time potential. Now, he didn't play a ton, but he's a guy that could do a lot for Alabama, especially with the Kalen DeBoer offense. And he may very well stay because of that. And then number 5 is Deontay Lawson, 67 tackles, 3 sacks. He's just a sophomore, got a couple of years left. They say he's the next great Alabama linebacker, great blend of size, speed, and athleticism. Tremendous potential. They need to hold on to him. That's not going to be easy. So Alabama's got their hands full. They got to hold on to these guys for a full 30 days. And every team in the country is going to try to poach, not only because they want their players, but because they want to bring Alabama down. Because they've been on top for a long time, and they've crushed a lot of dreams. And there's a lot of teams out there. This is an opportunity for them. And there's going to be a lot of negative recruiting. They're going to say, this guy's an offensive guy, not a defensive guy. Here you are, a defensive player. Come here and you'll be a star for us. We're all about defense. That's what Georgia's going to do. And by the way, we got your defensive back coach as well. There's going to be a lot of movement with these Alabama players over the next few weeks. And DeBoer's got his hands full. And if he's not a very good recruiter, that's basically what he's doing right now. He's introducing himself to these players, and he'd better be good at it, because if he loses a bunch of these players and the defense is not good, the Alabama fan base will not tolerate that crap. You start getting into shootouts, and it starts being, 51-48, for example. That number just popped into my head for some reason. Alabama people won't tolerate that crap. So it could be he'd better solidify that defense, because they don't want to start becoming, you know, an LSU type team where they've got to be in big time shootouts every game. This is a dangerous time for Alabama and Kalen DeBoer. It really is. I think he's a terrific coach, and he might even be a better NFL coach than necessarily a college coach. But we'll see. But he'd better learn how to recruit if he's not really a good recruiter, because if you don't have the talent in the SEC, this is not the West Coast.
Haven't you noticed? You got to be a man to play in my league.
You're not going to just get by with scheme, X's and O's. That's not going to work. You got to win with Jimmys and Joes too, and you'd better win that offensive and defensive line, because if you don't win the trenches, you're going to get your rear end kicked hard. So anyway, I did want to cover this because that's all anybody's talking about is Alabama, all these transfer portal folks. And I tell you what, that Caleb Downs, golly, would I like to see him in an orange uniform. And as far as Zalance Heard, I've not heard anything more for us Vols fans. That's the 5-star offensive lineman left tackle that we really, really need. We thought we kind of had him sewn up, but he still is not signed. That concerns me. Every day that goes by, I get a little bit more worried about it. We'll see. Hopefully it doesn't go past Monday. If it does, then we probably are dealing with a fairly open situation, and that he may not be as secure as we think. Hopefully he signs tomorrow. That would really be an important day for us. But, you know, I'll keep an eye on it and see. I just haven't heard anything in the last 48 hours at all. Not hardly anything. So if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's me know to continue to cover all this SEC information, of course, my Vols, and any other big stories that hit. And right over here is a subscribe button. If you'll just hit this little button right here, it'll help you get my videos and keep up with all this good info. And it doesn't cost you a dime. And right over here is most recent video, YouTube. Thanks, you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.